appreciate it, buddy. Seen so many people here that I've known. Saw Jack Ryan there. Fitz Dixon's buddy used to give me a program so I knew who in the hell was playing when I'm sitting in the stands. Since I never did when I was in the booth, obviously. And Dick Kearney, an old production guy from Channel 10 who kept me from having a fight with a new anchor that replaced John Facenda. Remember when I had him in the locks? Too bad you may have saved me. He was a big guy, you know. And Andy Musser, it's good to see you, Andy. Great broadcaster. I sort of have written down a couple of jotted notes, much like when I used to be on the air in only 2 minutes. But what is it all about? I want to thank the broadcast pioneers for this opportunity. And I have so many people to thank because the chances and the opportunities. And, you know, without that, you don't get a chance to step up. And my wife, Barbara, she's just a beautiful lady, but when we got married right out of college, her sorority sisters took a vote, and they thought the over-under on this marriage was probably 6 to 8 weeks. And that the German blonde would put a bullet right through Brookshier, you know. But we've been married 51 years, which shows you, being in this business, you got to work. You better believe that. And here's some old radio names. Listen to this. Bob Menifee was doing the morning show in those days, you know, and screaming. And Bill Campbell was the play-by-play, and a great play-by-play man. Ed Harvey's back with this lady back there, and Ed's Talk of Philadelphia. They used to have, you must have been doing controversial stuff. The guys on the roof with rifles and stuff, and you had the Ku Klux Klan head guy there. I mean, it was really a very provocative talk show that they had. And Edie Huggins. Oh, yeah. That was the first time I think we had really a woman come on the air. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's the way. Herb Clark, of course, who's a member of the club and said that he can't come today because Barbara's not feeling very well. And, of course, the Gray Fox, Mr. Jack Whitaker, spoke here earlier, and one of the great guys. He was doing television, and I was the jocko that would just come over from having a broken leg, and it was doing CAU radio, and I get a call from Vince McNally, the Eagles general manager, and he said, hey, Brookie, we don't have any quarterbacks in Hershey. Sonny Jurgenson and King Hill have run away from camp. And so I thought, well, yes. And he said, will you find them, please, because we've got Don Burroughs, a defensive back, playing quarterback. Oof. So I called a couple of bars that I knew, one out on 202 South, and the guy said, yeah, they were both here. They had a pop of beer, and then they're going to go play golf with a couple of members' sons over at Marion. So I run out, and there's Jack Whitaker, the Gray Fox, and I said, come on, we got a chance for an exclusive. So we jump in the car, and we go over to Marion real fast from Channel 10, and the 12th hole by the road, there's Sonny Jurgenson and King Hill, and I jump the fence and go over to Sonny. I said, what are you going to do? And he says, well, I hope I can get down in 2 from here. What he was doing, to show you how times change, he was running away from camp to get King Hill a raise. King Hill was making $15,000, Sonny was making $23,000. And Sonny thought that King Hill should be making about 19 or 20 anyway. So the two of them ran away. So he says, look, we're going to go back. We're going to have a good party tonight, and we'll be back in camp tomorrow. So I go back, and I said, I'll call you at 6. Exclusive radio hot deal, you know. So I go in there at 6 o'clock, make the call. A guy answers out at this bar on 202 South. Hello? Obviously a patron of the bar. And I said, is there a redheaded quarterback near you? What do you want? I said, look, please, if I find you, I know where you are. I'll come out there. I'm going to kill you if you don't find a redheaded guy and give him. So I go through a whole thing. Finally, the bartender takes the phone. Jurgenson does the interview. We run it on the air, and I'm a big hero. And if you remember, Alfie Ringler was our news director, and he sort of ran a bookies operation at the same time. There were a lot of rubber band dollar bills in his desk drawer, you know, but Alfie took my interview to an AP luncheon for a big award, and what they didn't tell him was that they put the whole tape back together again, so when they rolled it for the people to hear, the first thing they hear is, hello? I go through the whole thing about how I'm going to kill this guy. So Alfie came back and threw the tape at my desk, and I said, did I win? He said, you're lucky you just didn't get fired. Now, John Facenda, and Dick Kearney knows this much better than I do, but Facenda, Bela La Voce, you know, one day they had changed the lighting in the studio. And John came in and John said, "What are we lighting? The gargoyles at Notre Dame?" You know, this is the way it was, because they'd put shadows over him, you know. So John used to like to give that to him. And then he would yell out sometimes about the writing of the stories, "Give me a damn horse to ride." That was in the Facenda voice. One time, and up and down City Line Avenue between shows, John would have to cool out, so we went out, and there used to be a bar, the City Line Motor Inn across from Lord and Taylor, and it was so dark that you sat on people in the place. I mean, it was so dark. So we walked in there one night, and John says, "It's very dark in here." And a voice in the back room said, "Who said that?" And it was Ed Sable of NFL Films. He came running out of the darkness and said, "Will you read?" So the rest is history. That John went over, and he is the frozen tundra voice of John Facenda, you know. But, he was amazing. Anyway, one time John was always on time for everything, and there were 2 clocks between his office and the studio. And he used to stop by where I was. It was an open courtyard. It was a pig pit is what it was. And he called it jockdom. That's what John called it. So we stopped by and said, "What's happening?" And we had moved the clock ahead 18 minutes. He looked up and it was 30 seconds to 6 o'clock. He went ran in there. Harper, his favorite engineer, dropped a pipe off on the cement floor and went bing, bam, boom, and John. And he got up there, they rolled up those old prompters, and the first words were, "Oh, shit." John's whole career was on the line. And then we came in and told him, and he chased somebody, I don't know who it was, through the parking lot before he got back to do the 6 o'clock news. He was very upset about that. He used to tell me, he'd say, "Slow down, Tomcat. Let us think about what you're saying." But he was really my mentor and a great person from Philadelphia. Now, my Eagles coach in those days was a guy named Buck Shaw, who came roaring in from California, last place team in '58. He got Van Brocklin, second place in 1959, and then we win the championship in 1916. He retires and goes back home. How do you top that? He said, with the 4th best team to win the championship. Pretty smart old guy, right? But before the opening kickoff at Franklin Field, which is still the world's greatest football stadium, everybody sold out in 1960, and we're going to go out there, and Jimmy Brown happens to be playing for Cleveland. We go out, and Buck Shaw gives us a talk in the dressing room, and the talk was that it's much like opening a show on Broadway, a Broadway show. It's how you open, whether it's a long run or whether it's a flop. So we go out, we get beat 42-27. So Jesse Richardson was a big tackle on our team as we're leaving the field, and nobody booed or anything. Jesse said, "Well, we sure as hell ain't My Fair Lady." But what a funny bunch. So, he had this gray hair and this CEO mentality, you know, and he would sort of let us do our own thing, much like Andy Reid does. Andy Reid doesn't see anything that happens. What, a guy took his pants? You're kidding. I didn't see that. Where did? And it's a pretty smart thing for a head coach to do, you know. But we won 9 games in a row. And the next time we go back in the middle of this great win streak that everybody now has fabled. You know, we barely beat we never led in any third quarter action, and we didn't win it till the end. So we go in to play Cleveland, the team that had butchered us and it was one of those Lake Erie afternoons, the wind and the snow was swirling, and the fans out there hated us so much they threw beer cans with the beer still in them. You know, they wanted to hurt you and they hated us. And so it's like 31-29 or something with a few seconds left on the clock. My roommate was a guy named Bobby Walston, and Bobby was a hypochondriac. He had pulled his toenail off his big toe on his kicking foot with pliers earlier in the week, so he sort of walked like this. So Buck didn't know. Buck said, "Get in there, kick it, 38 yards, we'll win the game." So he goes out like this. Jurgenson was the holder on the field goals, and Jurgenson said, "There's no way." They said, "Shut up, just do it." So Bednarik, don't ever tell him I said this, bad snap by Chuck. And the wind is swirling in the snow, and fumbled by Jurgenson and down. and Walston kicked it with his bad foot and just barely cleared Bednarik's fanny. And the ball went up like this, and the wind sucked it right over the goalpost. And somebody on the sidelines yelled, "God almighty, we might win the damn championship." And that's how we won every game. A different guy jumped up. Bobby Freeman blocked a field goal in Dallas. We win by 2 points. He blocks a field goal and has Roselle's name and the air thing on the football on his, and it broke his nose. And he was proud that he had a broken nose to save us through the thing, you know. So Andy Reid's team is a lot like this old 60 team. He's got a real bunch of guys, and the main reason is that money is not the answer right now. M-O-N-E-Y is not the answer. It's the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, I think the winners now get $38,000. Now that sounds like a lot of money to most of us, but you know what? We got $5,600 in 1960. Where's all the money going for this, right? But think of this. The winners are only so this is pocket change for these guys that are making, and they want to go there and win this more than any darn thing in the world. Donovan McNabb, number 5, his folks from South Chicago, father and mother, drove to every game he played at Syracuse, whether it was in Boston or wherever it was. They drove to get there for Friday and then watch him play. So he is a great man and a wonderful guy for this city, and he'll never leave here. I guarantee you, he'll be here forever. The Ike Reese, Runyon's got a bad knee. He's going to play. He's played in 140-something straight games. I've never heard of anybody. He's from Michigan. He's bright. He wants to get into radio and television. Maybe he's not as bright as I thought he was. But you know what? I'm hoping that how about Westbrook, the kid from Villanova? And he's really humble and nice. I mean, this is a good bunch of guys and an unusual grouping today, you know. But I want them, when they retire and go into the real world, to have something saved and a direction to go, and have something not die at 43 or like Reggie White, or you know. I just want them to have more than that. And I remember doing one of those celebrity TV shows on CBS, The Men Against the Women. I'm sorry, I had to do it. It's part of my contract in the early 80s, and we did them out in Las Vegas, you know, and Bill Cosby was my men's coach on this one. And he told me that he took Muhammad Ali aside and told him, fire all of your agents, give the checkbook to your wife, and never talk to Don King again. Because the guys around these young people really work on them, and it's different than when we used to, Bob Goldby, these guys work for us as our friends. These agents, sometimes they can clean you out, you know. The celebrity competition, by the way, about that, I was always embarrassed to do that, but you know, the guys, William Shatner and Red Fox and people like that, really tried hard, because it was a different world for them, and they didn't want to be embarrassed by not beating the woman or whatever it was in it. So in a way, it was sort of an interesting thing to do, even though I even did the World Series of Poker. Jimmy the Greek was my color man. That's before the interview that time. And 27 years doing the NFL, and Summerall and I, we had a great time. The worst time we ever had was when they said that we were the Sunshine Boys and number 1, and it was the worst. People told you, yeah, you're doing great, that didn't even see the games, okay? It was not good. I like sort of being in second place and trying to get that next step, and that wasn't so good. But I also got to do some boxing, and I did a couple of Muhammad Ali fights, and Roberto Duran and some of those, and I found the fighters to be the most honest athletes that I've ever met. The money didn't mean a thing, even at Ali's level or anything. They just had to win the fight. And the guys in the corners and the promoters were the most apt to steal of anybody in sports history. It's the worst situation in the world. We did a fight in Vegas one time at the Desert Inn, and 5 minutes before we were to kick the fight off on CBS all across the country, the guy that was the promoter was also into real estate in Bel Air or somewhere, and he had a chopper fly in. He took the cash proceeds from the fight and went out over the swimming pool and left about 20 minutes before the fight. So CBS frantic calls, and they got the revenue together. And this was Kenny Norton, who was, a great heavyweight contender at that time. He was fighting a guy named Pedro Lavelle from Argentina, who was the Argentine TV Tarzan. And a couple of nights that we were there before the fight, we go out on the strip, and Pedro is with 4 or 5 showgirls, different ones every night. I mean, what an athlete he must have been. But I mean, to follow him from place to place was really an amazing thing. And he jumped into the ring to start this fight, and Kenny Norton in those days was about 235, and I mean, wanted, to kill him, right? And he's there waiting, and he jumped in over the top ring of the ropes singing Granada. Granada! And Kenny Norton like, what's wrong with this guy? So 5 rounds, he catches Pedro, the Argentine Tarzan, knocks him out. Pedro gets up, jumps the rope, singing Granada again. So we figured he was on his way back to probably 4 or 5 of those girls. We don't know them. But I love the fighters. They were the most basic, honest guys, and I really sort of felt sorry for him. Muhammad Ali called me the poor man's Howard Cosell, which was pretty accurate when you think about the money and for everything like that. But for all the enjoyment of the NFL games, I did some college bowl games, Penn State when they played down there, Joe Paterno's team, and Bear Bryant and Darrell Royal, and I loved doing those college games. But the most fun I ever had in this business was at WIP when I had my own money involved and invested and trying to broadcast. And I ended up doing the morning sports thing, up at 3 and at 6. You're going in with the people with the walkers for the afternoon movie, and it's rough. It's a rough thing to do. But morning sports talk, and what you sow is what you reap. I really mean that. If you want to be stupid, low down, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get junk. If you take on real issues and ask for intelligent discussions, it is out there. I found out if they trusted you, Parcells one day, I'd call him, he'd get a cup of coffee, slam the door and go in his desk. He'd spend 12, 15 minutes with you and really talk about things and level with you because they trusted you, But I think Michael Smerconish is a great example that there are people out there that want to think and talk about good things, tough things, overcoming things, issues. And if you want to slobber through a wing bowl mentality or something, you can do it. But I never wanted to do it, and that's the reason that we're still not in WIP. I'm going to close and have a couple of questions about the Eagles team if you want to, and about what's going to happen Sunday. But my dad had a gas station when I was growing up out in Roswell, New Mexico, where the UFO people, the aliens fell out there. And it was on the highway to the Carlsbad Cavern. So as I was growing up, I grew to asking people from all over the country and all over everywhere, hi, how you doing? Where you going? Have a good time. Take care of yourself. Watch yourself. So I never met a stranger, whether it was Philadelphia or anywhere else, because I could always just relate to somebody coming up. I'd say, hey, how you doing? Everything was all right. And it probably served me well in the business of television and radio. But the people are out there for good, solid news, interesting entertainment, not guys throwing up after eating too many beefs or something, or guys getting drunk at football games. And our directors used to start shooting these guys doing strange stuff, and we'd have tremendous arguments in the production meetings. Say, stop it, stay on the field, just cover the game, and then there's some good fans out there too, And there were some fun times. You remember Whistling Ray, the guy that used to dress up in the Dallas uniform down in Dallas, the blue and white cowboy outfit? Nice black guy, really a good guy. And Whistling Ray would always do something and everything. And one day I'm with Summerall, and he has a cardinal, a red bird on a chain. He throws it up and he pulls a gun out and shoots the bird. Bam, 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 bam. And everybody cheered and everything else. So Summerall, man, a few words, he said, what do you think of that? I said, it looks like Whistling Ray just got out of jail to me. Ooh. So I could hear the guys all the way to New York. What the hell did Brookshier say? Got out of jail. So we're waiting a few minutes for our ride to the airport. Whistling Ray came in and came over to me and sat down. He was really a good guy. He said, how are you guys? And I said, good. And he said, how did you know? I said, no what? He said, how'd you know that I got caught in a crap game last night? I said, I tell you what, Dad, you just saved my job. Thanks, you guys. Do you have any questions about
Questions?
It's time to take back the airwaves, though, guys. We don't have to have trash and slop on. You know that,
I'll
yes.
tell a funny story about you when you had your sports.
Are you sure you want to tell this story?
This is clean. This is clean.
It is?
Yeah. We had the women's football team on your show, and you asked this one girl, "Oh, what position do you play?" She said, "Oh, I'm a tight end." You broke up. We all broke up on the air.
Do I need to cut this out of the website?
I thought maybe she was a center. Barbara would be beating me over the head with a broom right now, you know.
One other thing. It was always a pleasure doing the show with you and Pat Summerall and Jack Buck. You guys were the top drawer of all the announcers.
Thanks.
Today, they're too damn egotistical today.
Well,
not like you guys.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Yes, Jackson. Jack Red.
No Pennsylvania Super Bowl?
Boy, I'll tell you, Pittsburgh looks rough to me. I went down to Eagles practice on the Wednesday before they went to Pittsburgh. And Andy Reid, I see him in the Wawa all the time. You know, Barbara thinks he's a truck driver when he yells, "Yo, Brooke." But I said, that's Andy. You know, he's bigger than the truck drivers that are around there. But I went down there to practice, and they really practiced hard, 2 hours. And I mean, they stayed out after we were doing things. There wasn't a sound on the field. There was not one, "Ha, you'll never catch that one again." There wasn't, "Wow, not a sound. They went through the motions. They went into the weight rooms, they went over there, and then they went into Pittsburgh and got their ass kicked, pardon the expression. But that's really what happened. And Pittsburgh is just like they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. You go into Pittsburgh, you better have your helmet on, and they come straight at you and they challenge you. So if it's Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh can beat New England. But I really like New England too. And this team's going to beat Atlanta. And if you want to go to Jacksonville, you better go, because the tickets are now going for $1,000 a shot. And I have a feeling a glass of Chardonnay and my own television set with the fire on might be a better way for me to spend $1,000 back. Yes, sir.
I want to compliment you about something.
Hi, Cal. How are you? Congratulations to you. I'm very proud of you for that. You know that? I mean, for what you did in helping people, that's a great thing.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, Cal.
Somebody got to do it. Tom, many, many years ago, I think I was up in the box at the Old Spectrum, and you utilized an expression that I had never heard before.
Really?
And being a student of language, it absolutely knocked me out. And since that time, now I don't know where you picked it up or if you invented it, and I'd like to know. But it has become a cliche virtually, not only in the sports world in particular, but in general language in general. And the expression was, we got to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like something that Facenda would have. Let's get everyone on the same page. But that is nice, Cal. Thank you very much for that, buddy. I appreciate. I thought you were going to probably say the 40 IQ thing, which was, for those of you that didn't listen to this game, and I'm glad you didn't, it was a game where neither team were going anywhere, and I was having to do a promo for a basketball game between Louisville and North Carolina State. And so when I got to the part about Louisville, I said they've got a good team, but the team has a composite IQ of 40, which is my number, which has been retired by the Eagles, is number 40, and I'd been interviewed before the game, and the number 40 was sort of rattling around in my head, and they really didn't like that I said that, and so I ended up having to go down to Louisville and face the wrath down there, and I had a couple of young kids that had come in to check out Louisville to come to, and they had lost their luggage, and I met them before I went into there was like 700 people, and they hated me. They wanted me real bad. And I said, well, my own dog bit me when I got home from the game that day, and somebody said, smart dog. So I had these two kids stand up, these two prospects, and I said, will you guys stand up? They said, yeah, Mr. Brookshier. I said, raise your right hand. I said, promise me you'll check a different book out of the library every week. We promise. You'll carry it across campus into your classrooms, and you won't cut a class while you're here at Louisville. We promise. Whew, that crowd really got quiet. Now, while I'm down there, I find out that Louisville, even though they won a national basketball championship, had not had a graduate from their basketball program in over 12 years. Whoa. So, including the young men that were upset that I made the 40 IQ thing. So, these schools have an obligation, too. If you're going to give them 5 years to get it, if you're running them all over the country, but make them go to those 8 o'clock classes. And John Chaney at Temple has an ex-cop that goes in and fights these guys to get them up. They do a shoot-around at 6. Then they do breakfast, and they go to 8 o'clock classes. And he's probably graduated more guys than would have been on the streets right now. So those are the kind of programs we should be getting into. But, you know, the press, I don't mean to knock the press or anything, but all the people that were after the 40 IQ thing, none of them ever followed up. And I used to tell guys, I said, go down to Louisville and check out their graduation rate. They wouldn't touch it. So sometimes you want to sort of bring it up, but that was not the right way to do it. You know, that was, yes.
Tommy, good to see you.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, good. Joe Pellegrino, one of my favorite guys. Good to see you, Joe.
Question. One is,
yes.
You told a great story about a newspaper reporter gave you guys a hard time. You were on the road, you were by the swimming pool, and something happened while a bunch of guys were sitting around the pool when a reporter walked by. The second question is, how has defensive back play evolved, or the differences from when you played as to how much more sophisticated they are now?
Wow, good questions. Well, they've changed the rules so much that the DBs, the defensive backs, have no chance. They can't touch the receivers. When we played, I had one of them ask me down there the other day, when did you hit a receiver? I said, I hit him at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So until the ball was in the air, it was as much my territory as it was his. That's the way the theory. It's not that way anymore. So the guys now, how these kids do it, and our guys, Lito, Shepard, and Sheldon Brown, those guys are the best tackling group, and Dawkins. So that's probably what's going to settle Vic and the Atlanta team on. They really tackle like a lot of. I saw a game the other day. In fact, it was Vermeil's team, Kansas City. Kansas City scored on a 40-yard run, and at the end of the play, 22 players were still standing on the field. There wasn't a single football person on the deck. That's different football than I would have ever played. What was the other question about?
The swimming pool event.
The guys around the pool, out on the road, and there was a particular writer.
Well, it was Larry Merchant.
Yeah.
He was a former Philadelphia, he's with ESPN and all, and Larry had written an article to how bad the football team was. And we might have been. We could have been a bad team, but we were up at Ricky's Inn there in Palo Alto, and he is on his honeymoon, and he's sort of snuggled over there and looking pretty cocky about it all, and so Bednarik says, let's do it. Excuse me, what is it, number 60? He says, he goes in the pool. So we went over and grabbed Larry Merchant, tried to cover his head up so he couldn't see who did it, and airmailed him into the swimming pool. And as he came up, he said, I've got 12 games to get even. We were all gone, baby. We were through the trees and out of sight. Is that the one you mean?
One thing I remember was you said that was the only spiral you guys threw over.
When Joe was at Channel 6, Al Meltzer was at Channel 3, and I remember when the fellow came from New York that did the basketball, Tickle the Twines, what was Wes Kiter. And we all would go out and play golf and stuff, and I'm playing golf one day, and Kiter said, I don't understand this. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they said that you let Bill White use your camera crew the other day because his didn't show up. And I said, well, of course. He said, oh, not in New York. He said, in New York, we sneak over to a guy that's reading and light his script and burn it while he's trying to read it on the air. I said, well, we don't operate like New York, you know. But we did have a good time, didn't we, Joe?
Great.
You were great, buddy. It's good to see you again. Listen, thank you so much. And if I can be of any help on your foundation thing when you're getting into that as a member of the Pioneers here, I would like to volunteer to raise some money or help you guys do whatever I can. It's been a real pleasure.
Round of applause for our speaker, Tom. Tom, our broadcast pioneers watch.
Oh, I've got one here that says Callaway Golf on it.
I work it every other day. Thank you.
Very much. Thanks.
All right. Fun. Was that enjoyable? All right, well, that's it. Thank you very much for coming. Get home safe and sound. We appreciate it. Oh, we're going to be here in February. Was the food okay? Everyone like? We're going to be here in February, and our guest will be Jim Rosen, who wrote a book on Philadelphia, the history of Philadelphia rock and roll.
Rock, rhythm, and blues.
Talk, rhythm, and blues.
Rock.
And so please join us here at the Holiday Inn on the third Wednesday in February. Thank you.